Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Sin and Tonic. Today's story is mysterious and mysterious. This is the case of the Dupont De Ligonnes family murders. Let's go. Sin and Tonic! Just a little heads up, this case is French and I will not say lots of these words correctly. What are you going to do? I will try my best. This story takes place in April of 2011. 5 members of the same family murdered and 1 missing, disappeared. Poof. Oh God, how am I going to pronounce all these words? Let's talk about the family. The family lived in a city called Nantes, I think that's correct, in France. There are 4 children and mother and father. The father is Xavier, and he is a businessman, salesman. We're not sure. We'll touch on that again later. And he is married to, I'm going to say Agnes. That is probably not how you pronounce her name. I apologise. Agnes. Now, she is a teaching assistant at a local school. Lovely. And they have 4 children. Arthur, Thomas, Anne, and how the fuck do you pronounce that?
Is brought to you by pronouncenames.com.
Got it, Benoit. They were their 4 children, Benoit. And they all lived in a rather unassuming, quite modest townhouse in Loire Antique. Sounds nice. On the 12th of April in 2011, the Dupont De Ligonnes family were reported missing. Their neighbours had some concerns. The house had been shut up, like all the shutters had been closed for a week. Agnes's car was outside and hadn't moved. There was no comings and goings and it was all very odd. On the 19th of April, the police went to the property. They searched the property and yes, the family were not there. They were missing, they'd disappeared. On the 21st of April, the police then issued a wanted sort of notice for the family and that was spread around France because this family have just completely vanished, completely disappeared. It was on the same day that the police made a really grim discovery. They found 5 members of the family buried under the patio along with their 2 Labrador dogs. So yeah, this changed very quickly from missing family to murder. There was 1 person missing and that was Xavier. So he had gone, he was not there, he was not under the patio with the rest of his family. No, he had vanished, he had disappeared. And that is suspicious. The next day it was discovered that the family had been drugged and then been shot in their sleep. Just awful. They had been shot with a rifle that Xavier, he had inherited only 3 weeks before from his father. Even more suspicious. Now, talking about suspicious and mysterious, let's talk about Xavier, okay? Because he is quite the character. There is so much weirdness about the whole thing that it's like, whoa, okay, where to start? Okay, so he had lots of businesses and ventures and things like that, that some of them made sense and some of them added up. And like he delivered services to like traveling salesmen and things like that. Okay, cool. But then he had these other businesses that just like were like, what? Like no one could really work out what they were. And it was all very mysterious. That's the word for this case, is mysterious. It's like, okay, what is going on? And the truth is that no one really knows. Like no one knows what he was doing, really. To add to the mentalness of it, he told friends, and I really highly doubt that you would tell your friends this if this was true, that he was a secret agent. I mean, is that not rule 101? Like you shouldn't know who a secret agent is. Am I not right? So to me, I'm thinking bonkers. So he's told his close friends that he's a secret agent on the job. In the lead up to the family murders, lots of odd things happened. He cancelled the lease on their property. He closed their bank accounts. He paid final settlements to the children's schools. There was a letter or notice placed on their letterbox saying, could all of their posts be redirected back to the sender? Okay, so this implies that they're they're going to be going somewhere, moving. In March, also, Xavier purchases bullets for his rifle. Between the 26th of March and the 1st of April, he signed up and went to a gun range, a shooting range, to practice 4 times. Douchebag. He also bought a silencer or a noise minimiser, you know, for the rifle. And he practiced with that on as well. Something came into my head just then. What was it? Was it the Amityville house? Where was it that? Where like all the members of the family were all shot? And it was like, why did no one wake up? And also the White House murders. But then like if you've got a silencer on, you could probably walk around the house and kill everybody. I mean, grim. Happens though. And then there's more weirdness and mysteriousness to the story. On the 1st of April, Arthur does not go to his place of work and collect his wages, which was unheard of. He went every single month on the 1st of the month to collect his wages at the pizzeria. And he didn't go. He didn't go and collect his wages. So, red flag. On the same day, Xavier buys cement, a shovel and a hoe. Suspicious. I mean, I'm sure like sometimes you have to, like building supplies, like you have to buy stuff like that. But I mean, I would just feel like everyone's looking at me. I'm not going to kill someone. On Saturday, the 2nd of April, Xavier buys 4 bags of lime again. What the hell? And he knows that that is obviously suspicious. So he goes to like 4 different shops to purchase these 4 bags of lime. On the 3rd of April, the couple and 3 of their children are seen dining in a restaurant. So the 3 children minus Arthur, so their eldest son Arthur, who didn't turn up to collect his wages, remember, on the 1st, him. They eat their meal and then they go to the cinema. That evening, he leaves an answer machine message on his sister's phone. He mentions in that message about putting the kids to bed and like they think that on the 3rd of April, that was the night that he murdered his family, or some of them. So this is where it gets tricky because of dates and times, and there isn't real concrete evidence about when the murders took place and whether they were all at the same time or separate. We don't know. But the police did think that he had murdered most of his family members, excuse me, I thought someone was coming to the door, on the 3rd. On the 4th of April, Anne and Benoit did not attend school. Another reason why people believe that they were murdered on the 3rd. Now, their friends were really concerned about them. They were concerned that they couldn't contact them. They also had heard the rumour that the family were going to be moving to Australia, but they found that bizarre because they were friends with these kids and they hadn't mentioned anything. So it was all very odd. On the 4th, Xavier does end up speaking to his sister and she reports that everything seemed completely normal. He was fine, nothing odd. It was all completely normal. Now that evening, this again adds to the fact that maybe he had murdered the rest of his family on the 3rd. So on the evening of the 4th, he dines in a restaurant with his son Thomas. It's just the 2 of them. The waiters at the restaurant noted that they didn't speak much during their meal. It was quite quiet, like reserved mealtime, and that Thomas, at the end of the meal, he didn't feel very well. He started to feel very unwell. So all was not good in the hood. On the 5th of April, this is when people believed that Thomas was murdered. What was going on in that house? A bailiff came to the house also on the 5th of April. Turns out that old Xavier was not doing so good with all of these weird and wonderful, wacky businesses of his. The family was actually in $60,000 worth of debt. Euro, surely. Whatever he was doing wasn't paying the bills. And in fact, their financial situation was quite dire. That does do funny things to people, doesn't it? Especially men. It does seem to. A lot of family annihilators seem to get in trouble with money and then like murder their entire family and then kill themselves. So Thomas spent the afternoon of the 5th of April at a friend's house and then randomly got a text message from his dad to say that you need to come home, your mum's had a cycling accident. So he had to go home, and he left his friend's house. He was meant to stay the night, but he didn't. And then you wonder, was his dad lying to him, Thomas? How could you murder your family, bar one, and that one not know? I'm not sure. It's all very odd. Was he holding his family kind of hostage in some weird hostage-like situation? Because for days they haven't been attending things and doing things that they normally would. We don't know what happened. Later on the 5th of April, Thomas was texting with his friend, the house he'd been at earlier, and he also was the next day. But the friend said that the messages didn't sound like they were from Thomas. They sounded odd. They were not how he would have communicated with his friend. And yeah, that made him really suspicious as well. Like, what's going on? He texted the following day saying that he wouldn't be coming around to see his friend and that he was really sick and that he wouldn't be going to school. But again, this friend was just like, these messages are odd. This isn't like you. Which goes hand in hand with Thomas being murdered on the night of the 5th. During this week, neighbours heard their 2 dogs howling 2 nights during the week, and then after that, no more howling. You can only assume that that was because he shot them. Piece of shit. On the 6th of April, Arthur's girlfriend, who hasn't heard from him and is very concerned about him, she goes to the house and she knocks on the door. No answer, but she did say that there was a light on in the property. She also noted that the dogs did not bark when she rang the bell. 7th of April is where it gets confusing because a couple of witnesses claim to have seen Agnes, and that does not fit with what the police reckon with them all being killed on the 3rd. So were these witnesses incorrect? Tricky one, because people, they really think that they did see her on the 7th. So perhaps the police were wrong, and because of the use of lime over the bodies, which speeds up the decomposition of the bodies. Oh, that's gross, isn't it? It was really hard to determine in the autopsy the time of death. So perhaps she was alive. Oh, it's a tricky one. I like to know. I've realised that. I like to know what's happened. I like the sort of facts and the science and the autopsies and yep, that happened then and blah blah blah, and that isn't often the case, but I like to know. So these ones intrigue me. I end up thinking about them for ages because I'm like, oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? Oh, and they could have done this. Ooh, and it just drives me nuts sometimes. What is clear is that by the 8th of April, Xavier had murdered his entire family. Whether he was holding them hostage up until that point, or he had killed some of them earlier in the week and some of them later on. It's unclear and unknown, which will frustrate me forever. But that is what we know. After the 8th of April, he went on the run. He contacted the schools, their employers, everything like that, and just told everyone that they were moving to Australia. It was like, yeah, we're moving to Australia. Got a job, going, gone. Okay, but he writes a very odd letter to his family. He doesn't tell his family that he's off to Australia and they're going to have a lovely time on the beach surfing or whatever. No, he tells his family that he is wrapped up in a major drug trafficking ring in the US. This is where it gets spicy, because what the deuce? I was thinking, oh, his family might have been killed because he is part of a drug trafficking ring and he's gonna, what's the word? Tell on them? What's the word? Betray the drug traffickers and get them in trouble, and he's gonna do this. So they killed his entire family, right? 2 things though with that is obviously no, because he went and practiced. He was the one that bought lime. He was the one that bought cement and the hoe and the shovel. It was him. He killed his family. So, I mean, what? Someone made him go to the shops and buy lime and cement. Someone made him do that. Do you know what I mean? Unlikely. He said that he was part of him and his family were part of a witness protection program, and that they were off to the US. They wouldn't be able to contact the family and blah, 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 blah. On the 15th of April, after travelling through France and staying in Formula Ones, and by the way, they are the coolest thing ever, the little Formula Ones. I love staying in those. So he was staying in like Formula Ones, bed and breakfasts. He was using fake names, all of this. I mean, what does he think he is, like a real life Jason Bourne? Like, do you know what I mean? No. Shush. So he's done all of that. He's sort of on the run, and then he abandons his car on the 15th of April. And that is the last we ever see, hear from Xavier. Kind of. An international arrest warrant is put out for him because he's murdered his entire family and 2 dogs. Piece of shit. On July in 2015, a journalist randomly receives a photograph of 2 of Xavier's sons, and on the back it says, "I'm still alive." The days. I mean, seriously, what? Oh my God. Like that, like I was joking about the Jason Bourne thing, but what? Okay. And they reckon it's from him. I mean, yeah, what? That blew my mind, because I was just like, you know, it's a bit, that's crazy, isn't it? So he's just like out there. Where is he? Is he dead? Some people think that he's committed suicide, but he went to a lot of effort. Why do all of that? And then he would have surely murdered his entire family and then killed himself. But no. And then, I mean, if he got to 2015, 4 years later, and he's still going, I reckon he's out there on a beach somewhere. Different name. Yeah, I do. There have been like 900 or so sightings of him that the police have had tip-offs over the years. And they've never ever amounted to anything. So maybe this guy is like a real life Jason Bourne, but a really shitey one because he killed his entire family. I mean, why? The police in 2016, there was quite like sure sighting of him in a casino in France. But when they went there and searched and everything, no luck. And then they sort of thought that he might be in a monastery, because a monastery will protect you. And they went to search a certain monastery and the monks were doing a vow of silence. Okay, typical. And yeah, they searched, but they didn't find him there. That he is still to this day, where is Xavier? He's like, where's Wally? His mum and sister, now they have a different spin on the whole thing. They believe that the whole letter and the witness protection thingy situation, drug ring, whatever, they reckon this goes really deep, and that is true, and that the whole family are safe somewhere in witness protection, and that the bodies found under the patio are not his family, and that was all like a ruse. And I mean, that is effort. But what, I mean, I don't even know anymore. Surely if they were going to be in witness protection, they just take them away. And like, I really don't believe that they would have like planted some fake bodies in order for them to like go into witness protection. But what do I know? That's what his mum and sister believe. I don't buy it. With the evidence that we are presented with, he purchased cement, a spade, a hoe, lime, lots of it, rifle bullets, and he drugged and shot his family while they were sleeping. To me, it seems like a sort of family annihilator case with a twist, because normally the man then does commit suicide, but perhaps the persona and built-upness of the secret agent stuff and being part of a drug ring, you know, maybe that just sort of like took over and protected his mind from what he'd done, and then he went off on the run. Who knows? Who knows if he's alive? Who knows if he did eventually commit suicide? Did he expect the bodies to be found? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe he didn't expect the bodies to be found, so the letter to his family, you know, no one else, like it seems like it was all just to cover his tracks. Like no one's going to look into this because we're moving to Australia, and his family think we're part of a witness protection. What's going on? So it just seems like he was just trying to cover his tracks with some really craziness. I want to thank one of my subscribers. Thank you very much for suggesting this story to me. There's a couple of others that you did also suggest, which I'm looking into as well because they were interesting. So yeah, thank you. If anybody else has any suggestions for true crime stories, please let me know in the comments, because actually that was really helpful and it was nice to cover a case that somebody had actually asked for. So yeah, definitely up for that. Always do that. Put them in the comments if you have any suggestions. As I suspected, and I did predict this, did I not, when I was up the shed filming due to COVID and children being here, I said to you, didn't I? The minute I start filming indoors again, it'll be like a heat wave and I wish I was up the shed because it'd be cooler. And we are having like freak hot weather in the UK. My favourite. I like it to be like cold and then it can slowly get warm and then it's summer. Not this, like freezing cold wearing a bobble hat one day and then boom, sun's out, you need a t-shirt on. Granted, I could have worn something different. I do feel rather hot. So my fault. Anyway, so we'll drink. Thank you so much for joining me today for another episode of Cinetonic. I do hope you can join me next week for another true crime story and a glass of gin. Bye!